Hi, everyone. Welcome to another KE Report webinar produced in conjunction with Focus Communications. I am Corey Fleck, your host for this webinar, also your host over at the KE Report. We're a radio show, podcast, and on YouTube where you can keep up to date on daily market commentary as well as updates from a wide range of mostly resource companies, which ties in perfectly to today's webinar as I am featuring Novo Resources. Novo is traded on the TSX under the symbol NVO, on the OTCQX under the symbol NSRPF, and on the Australian exchange under the same symbol as the TSX, NVO. I am chatting with Mike Spreadborough, Executive Co-Chairman, and Kas De Luca, General Manager of Exploration. Now, throughout this webinar, Mike and Kas are going to provide an overview of the company as well as an exploration update at a number of the company's projects in Australia. You all have the ability, and we encourage you to ask questions. You can use the Q&A function or the chat feature within this webinar software to pass those questions along to me, and I will interject those questions throughout the webinar. And also at the tail end of the webinar, we'll have a little bit more of a Q&A. So please keep sending in your questions. I'll keep a tally of them, and I will get those answered for you throughout this webinar. So Mike, Kas, thank you very much for taking time to share an overview of the Novo story and the exploration that's ongoing. Mike, I know you're going to start it off here. Please take us away.
Thank you very much, Corey. Welcome, everyone. I do remind you that on our website today, we've put out a new corporate presentation. So Kas and I will be going through some high-level stuff, but the corporate presentation will give you more detail and definitely give you references to news releases and other information to provide you a good overview. Up front, the normal cautionary statement, so have a read, understand the importance of what we're presenting today. And importantly to us, we work in the northern part of West Australia with great acknowledgement of our traditional owners. We work side by side for those people to have access to the land. We recognise their unique cultural heritage, beliefs and connections to the lands, waters and communities. And we pay our respect to all members of these Indigenous communities and to elders past, present and emerging. So where are we with Novo? We still remain a gold exploring company, 100% focused on looking for large scale standalone gold projects with a development potential of 1 million ounces. We're unique in the moment, given the market and the economy. We have a very strong balance sheet of around about 17 million Australian cash, and we've got some market securities of around 50 million Australian, and I'll talk about those as we go through the presentation. We'll definitely talk about our Becher project. It's a fantastic Egina joint venture with De Mining. It's right next to the large Hemi 10.5 million ounce resource project. It's one of our key portfolio acquisitions that we'll talk about. And we'll also delve into our very key standalone exploration projects at Nunyerry and Balla Balla, both located in the Pilbara, and we'll talk about a Victorian project. We'll also cover our joint venture relationships with two parties in Australia that give us access to lithium potential and other battery minerals. And we'll definitely cover the fact that with a strong balance sheet that we have, we're out there looking for other projects to increase our portfolio going forwards. So gold, it couldn't be a better time to invest in gold. The gold price is at all-time highs, sitting around about 2,400 US, which is fantastic. We've seen a 16% increase in the gold price this year alone. During times of inflation and high interest rates, you definitely do see the gold price coming up, and we've seen that all the way through. So it is a really great time to add explorers to your portfolio, and particularly gold explorers. The potential of gold remaining high looks very, very good. And of course, where we are in Australia, we are a tier 1 exploration jurisdiction, great history of finding good gold deposits, and Novo is definitely one of those companies And as you'll hear today, we've got a great, strong portfolio. So before we get into the geological exploration detail, let's quickly cover the balance sheet. So as I said, we've got about 17 million in cash, and we've got about 50 million Australian in investments. So as you can see here, we've got a collection of investments on the ASX, other smaller mining companies that have been involved with Novo over the years. But we've got two big investments. One with E3D, which is a technology company out of Denver. They're involved in E3 printing technology, and we've got a valuation of around 20 million of Australian in that investment. So that's a very exciting investment that's been very useful to us and as part of the history of Novo as we've gone along the journey. And we also have an investment in San Cristobal Mining of around about $25 million. So we've got a really large balance sheet that allows us to explore other projects as we go forwards. But importantly, what Kas talks about in terms of exploration, we've got the balance sheet and the cash to do our exploration for this year. We've got a great supportive shareholder basis. De Grey Mining have 10% of our register. Mark Creasy is a very strong explorer person who supports that in Australia. He's 4% of our register. First Sentia is an Australian fund. Crescat, fund out of Denver that many people would know. So we've got a very good supportive register, and that allows us to get on with our work. So again, a very strong board. I lead that board as executive co-chairman, but Quentin Henney, who was part of the formation of Novo, still remains on our board as non-executive chairman. Karen O'Neill has just joined our board. Karen brings a finance background and has worked in the junior space for a long time. Ross Hamilton has an ESG background, and Greg Jones is a very strong exploration background over many years. So we've got a board with the right skill set going forwards. And as you heard, Kas leads up our exploration, and Elsa is our Chief Financial Officer. ESG is important to us. We are exploring in some unique parts of Australia, and how we go about our work in terms of the environment, but importantly, how we work with our traditional owners and communities remains very core to the way we do our business. And I do encourage you to get on the website and look at our annual sustainability report. It'll give you a bit more of an overview of our ESG performance, but also our value set that we bring to the business that we do. We really do like to operate with integrity. So this is the Pilbara. We still have around 7,000 square kilometres of tenure in the Pilbara. In the middle of this map, you'll see the Egina Gold Camp. So you'll see the top of that is the Becher project that we'll talk about in a minute, and on the bottom is the Nunyerry North project. So that's the key exploration potential of where we're operating. You'll hear us talk about the Balla Balla project. So that's just north there of Becher. So that gives you a bit of a location. And then, as I said, we've got some two battery joint ventures that we'll talk about. One is the Hardy Battery Metals. So that's the purple on this map around Karratha, a really great joint venture. And then over on the east of our map, you'll see the Nullagine area, and that's our Quartz Hill joint venture. So that gives you a geographical perspective. From Nullagine to Karratha is about 400 kilometres. So we still cover a very large area across the Pilbara. As I said, around about 7,000 square kilometres of exploration tenure. So let's quickly do a quick summary of each of the projects, and then Kas will get to them in detail. As I said, Egina joint venture, this is key to us going forwards. Great relationship with De Grey. Lots of exploration happening in terms of drilling programs that Novo completed prior to forming the joint venture last year, and a great completion of drilling later part of last year post the joint venture being formed. So that's really good, and some really good results coming through that Kas will talk about. When you start seeing results around 4 grams per tonne, it gets you really excited, and a great project in terms of exploration going forwards for the rest of the year.
Mike, can you provide just a little bit more info on that JV? What kind of spend there is? What Egina is?
Yeah, I'm going to get, Corey, I'll get Kas to pick that up in a couple minutes.
Okay, so, perfect.
Yeah. So Nunyerry North, this is our exciting project. We did a great program in 2023. Kaz will run through some of the results, but look at those there: 6 metres at 6 grams, 11 metres at 2.52 grams, near surface exploration. So that's really great. And we'll move into a program later this year and follow up. So again, that's the key news flow that you'll see moving forwards. Balla Balla, as I said, up there on the coast, a very large greenfields exploration site. We're looking for big systems in there related to the Shoal Shear, and we'll really cover that in detail. And we hope to be there in the second half of this year doing first phase air core drilling. And we can't forget, on the eastern side of Australia, we have Belltopper. Here we're looking for Fosterville style mineralisation. You know, Fosterville was a very high gold producer, high grade gold mineralisation, and we're looking for exactly the same, and we've just completed a program. So Kaz will give you a good overview of that project going forwards. So overall, we're in a very good position, well funded with some great projects. And on that basis, I'm going to hand over to Kaz to give you a really good in-depth of our projects.
Thanks, Mike. And hello, everyone. Yeah, we've got some great projects, and I'll give you a run through as we speak. Obviously, one of our main areas is what we're terming the Egina Gold Camp. It's a fertile corridor that runs from our Nunyerry North project all the way through to De Grey's Hemi project in the north. We do have a quite important joint venture with De Grey, and you can see that in the lighter green colours up in the northern part of the camp there. The spend is around 25 million, up to 25 million over 4 years to earn a 50% interest in that tenement area. There's a $7 million minimum spend over 18 months, which De Grey are aiming to spend by the end of this year. They will start drilling very soon. We've had quite a bit of rain in the Pilbara this year, so we've had a couple of cyclones come across, and it's affected both the north at Becher and down in the south a little bit more at Nunyerry. However, we are clear at Nunyerry now. We're actually clearing drill pads next week, ready for our next program of RC drilling and potentially diamond drilling as well down at Nunyerry to follow up some great results from last year. The Malana Basin is a really important part of the land mass, of the land area up in the Pilbara, and the Becher and the De Grey tenure actually covers a larger part of that basin, and which is highly prospective for gold deposits. I think there's around 2,500 square k's between what you can see in the grey tenure package, which is the De Grey area, and the green. So this area is the Malana Basin in the north. We think our tenure is as prospective for both intrusion and structurally related gold deposits. Hemi sits up here just in the north here at over 10 million ounces in their reserve base, and Withnell down here, Tawarana, they're very keen on our Becher area, particularly around prospects called Heckmeyer, Irving, and Low, which we'll talk about on the next slide. RC and air core drilling will start pretty soon. Overall, last year the budget covered around 39,000 meters of drilling, of which around 10.5 has been completed in Q4 with some pretty interesting results. So that will continue into potentially the whole field season this year, starting in end of April, early May, and probably running all the way through to October.
Kaz, all that drilling, is the focus here to get some sort of a resource estimate out, or is it just continued expansion, looking for more mineralization and expanding on what you've already found?
Good question, Corey. Thanks for that's a really good segue. If you have a look at this, the scale bar in here, the area up at Becher is around 20 by 20 kilometres. So the amount of drilling that's been done to date barely scratches the surface, really. These air core lines that Novo did back in 2022 and early 23 are around 320 metres apart. So really this is the first pass identification of greenfields anomalism. De Grey have started to follow up some of our work with RC drilling, and this year they'll actually be doing their own infill air core lines, and they have projects as well that they'll follow up independently of the ones that we started to generate. The really exciting prospectivity is coming forwards. We basically didn't have the resources to be doing deep drilling as quickly as De Grey will be able to, so for us it's a win-win. You know, we still keep 50% of the project, and we can have our own drilling rig down at Nunyerry at the same time that we'll be drilling on the De Grey project, which they will fund, obviously. So, you know, for Novo, that means we'll potentially have 2 drill rigs going certainly for the next quarter, if not, you know, the rest of the field season. I guess I'd just draw your attention to some of the latest results. This area actually shows mostly the Heckmeyer intrusion, which we think is a really complicated, structurally controlled intrusion that has very similar chemistry to Hemi. And the low prospect, which I couldn't actually squeeze onto this map, it's actually another 8 kilometres to the east of to the east of an area that we call Oven in here. So only 4 scout holes were completed by De Grey, and the best results are this 8 metres at nearly 5 grams, including 3 at 11.8. Great results for basically what is scout drilling, and they plan to go back there and follow that up this year. A really interesting and almost a curiosity has been this structurally controlled polymetallic zone in here. Certainly has gold in it, but very high-grade silver, lead, and some zinc and copper in there as well. So the trend goes for over 1 kilometre, and again, that's going to be tested this year. But I'll draw your attention to this section line here. So the next slide is just one of De Grey's sections. It's very simple at the moment, but basically it's in an intrusion. It's a structurally controlled, potentially Brexia. It's under some transported cover, so it's never really daylighted and been tested before. And as I said, it's got, you know, silver up to almost 30 grams, % of copper, lead, zinc, and it really does seem to stand up quite well. And we can track it throughout that entire kilometre-plus fault trend.
So, Kaz, because there is some cover here, is the best way to simply test and isolate where to drill? Is it simply by doing scout drilling?
It is really. I think you can see in here some very shallow lines. This is the first pass air core drilling that was done. And then the deeper lines in here are actually RC drilling. So the air core drilling, I think, from memory, had about a 0.14 gold anomaly down in the bottom part of the hole, and that was really what was followed up by De Grey. And it's pretty interesting. It's not quite true width, but you know, it's probably 15 to 20 meters in there at a fairly decent grade. Very unusual. But you know, gold is our focus, but this is just sort of a bit of a surprise, I guess. We're just trying to figure out exactly what it is, and it may well be really interesting, particularly if it's got that scope. Let me just move on. So south of the Egina joint venture is this zone through here. So we have, again, almost a 40-kilometre strike traverse across these fertile corridors. Nunyerry North has been the first target that we have fully tested, and we started drilling that obviously with RC drilling last year, and we've got some pretty interesting results. I'll show you that in the next few slides. But as you can see, we've got a series of other really quite good prospects that we need to test. Again, same fertile sort of complex structures, and they bifurcate, and the structures actually peel off, and quite often it's the secondary structures that are interesting rather than the major ones. This whole corridor runs up into the Ballabala Basin and into the De Grey system further north. So again, yeah, when you're in elephant country, go and look for them. This is straight out of our latest news release. We've done quite a bit of work, obviously, since last October, November, December, when we were following up and drilling at Nunyerry. Few things to really take home about this slide. The drilling that was completed was really only in this little area here, about 200 meters long. A couple of holes in here, but quite difficult to access at that point in time. So this was really a proof of concept, and out of that, we've got some really good results. I've got a map, and I'll put it in one of our releases, that actually shows there's really zero drilling within a 50k radius in any direction of this area. It's a window in the Fortescue, so it hasn't really been explored for prior. It was actually it's in a joint venture, I should say, with Mark Creasy, and some very early soils and rock chips hinted that there was a good prospect here, but the Creasy group just never followed it up. So that's what we've been doing for the last year or so. Excuse me.
No problem, Kaz. Thank you, everyone, for sending in your questions. We'll get to a couple more of these, but I'm still letting you run. This is a lot of good information here, Kaz.
Okay, thank you. I think you can see here we're pretty confident now of what the targets are. It's an ultramafic to mafic pile, the package, and we do find these felsic intrusions that are scattered throughout, but there's a particularly big one in the southwest over here. The green shaded polygons are the preferred stratigraphy. So we know that there's gold in here, actually in the drilling that we did last year. We know that there are gold's hosted in quartz veins. We know that there are repeats, and I'll show you a long section very shortly right across this area here. And now we've really got another over a kilometre of a strike to test. So these areas that are hatched in red are actually going to be drill tested at a broader spacing now. So proof of concept last year. Now we're looking for bigger, broader, deeper, larger targets rather than trying to just do more detailed drilling to understand everything. This felsic intrusion is very interesting too. It looks like a granodiorite to us. It doesn't look that dissimilar to some of the intrusions that we see in the Ballabala Basin, so it could be quite important. And although there's a very high soil anomaly up at Nunyerry in the basalts, there is definitely an anomalism in this intrusion that we're going to test as well in the drilling with a few scout holes. So the program's around 4,000 meters. We'll test 3 or 4 different targets and different styles. It's quite difficult to get in there, but now we've got full heritage clearance. We've got a really good access track. All the water's receded, so all our fingers are crossed that we don't have any more major cyclones come through. And earthworks in the next week or two, and then drilling shortly thereafter. And so this area up in the north here is where this long section comes from.
So for that 4,000 meters, how deep are you going to be drilling? You say that you might be testing some depth component, but how deep is that then?
A little bit deeper than last time there, Corey. We had a small rig with a small footprint, a track-mounted rig last year, and although that was pretty handy because it's pretty rugged and robust, it can go pretty well everywhere. After about 100 meters, it started to get pretty slow. So now we've got a larger rig, and we're still not using a booster to support the reverse circulation work, but we will be able to get around 150 or more meters in some of the sections. We're also aiming to put a couple of diamond holes actually across this long section to really test to see if there are more of these potential repeat loads in the veinings to the south. Yeah, and we've also applied for, it's called an EIS in Western Australia. It's a government grant that is exploration funding. So if we get that, that will actually cover half of our diamond drilling costs as well. Quite a few of the junior explorers have been doing this. It's quite a good initiative from the government. You can basically drill twice as much that you would without the grant.
Is that grant capped at all? Any certain maximum amount that you could get?
Yeah, I don't think they were, because they like to share it around. I think the total is over 4 million this year, and it's around. We've asked for around 180, and I don't think it goes much over 250 per company because they do like to share it around. Okay. But very handy for junior explorers that are struggling with really high drilling costs and fuel costs and the rest at the moment.
What are some of your drilling costs?
Well, it's I don't know how it compares to Canada and North America, but we do a lot of RC for that very reason that diamond is very expensive. So we will spend around $60 to $100 per meter for RC drilling, depending on how deep it is. And that's, on costs after that, including assay and people and whatever. So all in, it's around $150 a meter, really.
That's a lot cheaper than a lot of places, especially in North America.
Well, it's for RC still. So what we've really done, and we're getting quite good at this now, rather than, because diamond can be over 300 or more a meter, particularly on small programs. We're actually using a downhole televiewer, an acoustic televiewer. So it actually can produce what looks like a core in 3D. We've got some very clever people that work for us that can actually put that together. So it looks like, and when you put it in a 3D model, it actually sort of looks like a core downhole rather than just, our logging of chips, which is just a meter by meter mostly. So that's very handy. Can pick up structures, pick up structural measurements, can pick up ore zones, different lithologies, quartz veining. So we're looking at doing that on last year's holes, and we potentially carry on with them. And that's pretty cheap, relatively. Get a lot of information out of that. Good bang for the buck.
Okay, thanks.
This one's Balla Balla. It's kind of, I think most people will think it's emerged a bit quietly, but we've been working on this quite a lot in the last year and a half. Whilst we've had one crew working on Becher and another crew working up here. It's centered on, as Mike said, it's centered on this big shear zone here, which we know is fertile for copper and gold out around Karratha a bit more. So it's called the Shoal Shear Zone. And again, you can see all these splays that come and bifurcate off it. We're waiting anxiously to get these two tenements granted because this is where we see the best gold potential. So we're going to put air core programs together for the end of the second half of the year. So we'll be able to test the areas up here in the north. It's a similar sort of story to the Waller Shear, going through Hemi and going through our Becher project. Everything's linked up here in the north, so we're really anxious to get into some of these prospects down around Ramquarry and Depish Well. So that's going to happen in the next half of the year. Jumping into Victoria across the country. So Belltopper actually sits in the Bendigo zone in the same sort of district as Fosterville, around 50 k's actually south of Fosterville. We've done some diamond drilling since October, had a little bit of a hiatus over Christmas, but we've done around 2,300 meters of diamond, 2,500 meters of diamond drilling since then. Finished up at the end of February, so we are still waiting on some results. Following up on some of the larger scale targets that we've seen, the guys have done some sensational mapping and 3D modeling, so our targets are really robust and we've hit quite interesting rocks. But as I say, the proof's always in the assay, so we're just waiting for all the assays to be returned to decide on next steps. I've got a series of holes, a series of grades in here that just show you the best intercepts on the 11 star from last year, which is one of the areas that is being followed up during this program. So it's really just watch this space over the next month for the results to come through.
Why are you going with diamond drilling here, not the RC drilling?
In this instance, we are quite close to a little town called Malmesbury, and we are actually in an area where it's much more conducive to doing diamond drilling. So that's one reason, but the other real main reason is geological integrity and resolution. You really cannot do justice to the Victorian systems and controls on the mineralization with RC chips. The guys have actually used the core to decide where all of the anticlines, which are one of the most important features, to be able to focus gold. So we decided very early in the piece to go with diamond rather than RC in this case.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it for me, Mike?
You've done very well, very well.
Your turn, Mike. Thank you very much, Kas.
Thank you.
So at the very start, I talked about our joint ventures on battery metals. You know, one of our focus is Kas and the team have got such a large exploration portfolio. They do focus on non-gold minerals or commodities. And if we do find good occurrences, our normal rationale is to do enough work that we can attract value for shareholders from those tenements. So we do have some lithium prospects. Some people will be aware that the Pilbara does have some very large lithium projects that are in development and also in operation. So across, as I said, Karratha, we've got the Hardy Battery Metals joint venture with SQM. You know, SQM is a very large Chilean lithium developer and producer. They've invested $10 million into Novo as part of this joint venture, and they'll do the work, and we'll retain 75% ownership of those projects. So that's very exciting for us, and you'll hear more work as SQM gets on the ground. And as I talked at the start, over on the eastern side of our tenements is the Quartz Hill joint venture with Liatam Mining. Again, they have a very strong lithium background, and in this case, it's 80%, 20% joint venture, and they'll do exploration and they'll free carry us all the way to a feasibility study or to an investment of over $20 million. So both of these provide great upside to our shareholders in the focus of both lithium and also some of these areas are nickel prospective. So just to summarise before we do some Q&As, as I said, Novo, we remain very focused as a gold explorer on looking for projects with 1 million ounce development potential. We are unique as an explorer. We do have a good cash balance and we do have access down the track to some market securities of around $50 million. Kas has done a great job of outlining to you that Egina joint venture in the Becher project. You know, this is a long burn, large system that we're looking for. Hemi is a 10 million ounce project that runs at roughly about 1.4, 1.5 grams per tonne. So that's the type of project that we're looking for, but it has great opportunity and great value. So we're really excited by that. Our drilling at Nunyerry has been great to date, and as you heard, we'll go back there drilling shortly, hopefully following up and extending the mineralisation zones that we saw in 2023. Victoria still remains interesting. and we've still got Balla Balla and other tenements in the Pilbara that will continue to do grassroots exploration. And I think that's an important thing. You know, we are an exploration company. We're probably still, 12 months, 24 months off, hopefully having a resource at any of our projects. And we've got that exposure to natural metals. And as I said, we're definitely continuing now with our balance sheet, strong cash position to look for other opportunities that we can add to the portfolio. So where Novo is, now in April 2024, we're in a very good position. We've got a great team here in Australia, great place to go exploration. So we should have a great future all the way through this year. So Corey, happy to take some of your good questions.
Absolutely. Thank you, people, for sending them in. Please keep them coming. I see a couple more coming in here. One, I guess, more broad question that we can start with here is, Novo has a lot of projects. You've taken us through gold-focused projects, battery metal-focused projects. When or do you think that Novo will more isolate a flagship project here in the near term and focus most, if not all, of your attention on it?
Yeah, so obviously the joint venture with De Grey has really allowed us to kind of contract out that focus. That is really a tier one flagship exploration project, and obviously through the joint venture, De Grey's going to spend $25 million within 4 years. That's huge. We couldn't do that as a junior. So really, Corey, that's the number one flagship project. And then I'd say the Nunyerry project is the next one on the map, but we're doing our own work. And then, as you heard from Kas today, we're very busy building up other projects in Balla Balla and elsewhere in the Pilbara. So we have a very nice triangle tier structure. De Grey doing their work at Becher is probably the one that would lead maybe to a resource, as I said, 18, 24 months, and the same as Nunyerry. They are the two, if you'd like to use that word, flagship, that we believe has the best potential going forwards at the moment. Okay. But as we all know with exploration, we've got some great ground, so one drill hole could change our focus. Yeah.
Now, with some of the other projects, would you also attract partners, JV interest, or even put them in other people's hands to further explore?
Yeah, it's a good question. Our whole focus is to really look at the best way to give shareholder value. We knew with the discovery of Becher, and that's a great example of what the exploration team have done. It's a new part of the area that had very little exploration done. So it was a great discovery, but we knew straight away that we were seeing a Hemi-style system that would require a lot of time and a lot of money to develop up. So a joint venture makes sense. Nunyerry is a little bit of a different system, and at the moment we're very happy to prosecute that exploration ourselves. And as I said, lithium, we don't want to use money chasing lithium. We want to be gold focused, so we joint venture that out and use someone else's capital. So it's really case by case basis, which is the best pathway to give value to shareholders.
Okay. Are there any other battery metal, lithium projects within the portfolio, or any other that you might be acquiring in the near term?
Yeah, at the moment, Kas and the team have done a pretty good job across our portfolio identifying pegmatites that we've done the two joint ventures. But we still have potential in the Karratha, West Pilbara area of nickel occurrences. So if we do find those things, we will look for a good owner for them.
Okay. Question on ore sorting equipment. Is there ore sorting equipment still being used here for testing purposes?
Yeah, so we still have ownership of an ore sorter that we can use for testing, but at the moment it's all packed up and we don't really have a project that we could use it for. It's possible down the track that Nunyerry might be an ore sortable project, but look, it's really early speculation. And one of the great things about Nunyerry is, Kas has said, we're going to do some diamond drilling. So to get some core and do early stage metallurgical testing later this year will be exciting.
Okay. Slide 17 on Becher. Somebody was outlining that on the map you're noting some lead ppm results here. Are you looking for galena rather than gold? That's the question at Becher.
No, we are not looking specifically for galena. Look, I think it's really important to say here, it's very early days. I think it's back one, actually. Can I move it? Yeah.
One more, yes.
I think we mean this one, right? So,
yeah.
See, this is the geochemistry is lead. The reason that in fact this is a De Grey from the De Grey release, this particular diagram, but I was really just trying to show how continuous the anomalism is over a kilometre, almost a kilometre and a half. There are spotty gold numbers all through here as well, but the lead just hangs it all together, and you can see that from this next section where you've got percents of lead in this whatever this zone is. As Mike said, we are a gold explorer. I'm very cognizant of that, but when you hit something that's fairly spectacular, and it does look quite spectacular in the chips, I just want to know what it is, and it may very well be another value add. So we will see how that goes.
Okay. What's the cash burn rate right now for the company? Can we estimate that either per month or through the rest of this year?
Yeah, look, we've got more than enough cash to get us through to the end of the year to execute our exploration project. So we're in, as I said, a good position. So, yeah.
Is there a general budget you can share with us? Is all the money going to be spent this year? I know people just want a little bit more color on that.
Yeah, so our normal profile is around about 90% of our cash. You can pick that up in the financial statements. All goes in the ground with Kas's team. We've only got a small team of about 38 people now, and most of those people work in Kas. We're a little bit different as an explorer because we're very efficient, and we do that by managing our own tenements and also the geological database we all do ourselves. So we're very, very focused on how to optimize that cash to get the best outcomes. And again, we are a little bit interesting because we've got over 100 tenements still across 7,000 square kilometres. So it takes a little bit of work to manage that.
Now, are there a lot of costs involved with holding this many tenements?
So our average holding cost is round about $4 million a year, but that's not a problem for us because we blend that into the exploration project. About 95%, I think, Kas, of the on-ground expenditure for exploration gets offset to the $4 million. So it's just a natural shuffling money to show the government that we're putting money in the ground in the right place.
Yeah.
Can I just add something, Corey? Prior to doing the joint ventures with De Grey, Liatam, and SQM, our expenditure commitment, which is what Mike was just talking about, was over 9 million. So we still have the ground, we still have the actual gold and precious metal and mostly base metal rights on all of that ground, even though it's in joint venture. And, they look after all those holding costs. So we've halved or more our exploration holding costs for all the remaining tenure, and yet we've still got access through the joint ventures to be able to look for gold.
Okay, thank you. What about those marketable securities? Strategy around those? Can you actively or openly sell those? Are there any restrictions around them? And are you planning on liquidating any of those?
Yeah, go the backwards. Yes, we definitely hope over the next 12 months that we'll be able to use those funds to help us grow the business. So a very active management of our balance sheet, and they definitely will be able to be monetarised in the back end of this year, early 2025. Okay. And how we choose to use that money is unknown. But as I said, we are looking for projects elsewhere, and as you've seen, depending on results of Nunyerry or others, we might have some exciting expenditure to do on projects.
Okay, just a quick summary then. How many drills are turning right now? What sort of news should we be looking out for, time-wise, in terms of especially drill results?
Yeah, so working backwards, as Kas said, the Belltopper program's now completed. We're waiting for all the assays from those, so people will see a good update on that. In the Pilbara, we'll be providing everyone an update as soon as we can on the progress of drilling at Nunyerry. As Kas said, that's hopefully will start up very soon. So at the moment, Novo's not running a drill rig, but in the next 3 to 4 weeks, people will see that rig start up. And as Kas said, you'll see news flow from Becher as De Grey get going with their exploration project on that ground. And we'll also provide the market a bit of an update on the Quartz Hill joint venture and how that exploration. So people will continually see between now and September how those drill programs are going, and as results come through, we'll share those, which should be pretty exciting.
Okay. Perfect. This does take us through a lot of these questions here, Mike. So I guess just a final comment. The investment angle for Novo Resources. When investors are looking at this company, you have cash in the bank, you're exploring on a number of different projects, you have a number of JVs. Summarize it for us, though, please. What are the key catalysts that investors can look for here?
Yeah, look, we're very open. We are a gold explorer. We're an early stage gold explorer. I always think it's great to have gold explorers in your investment portfolio. We're one of the best. We've got a great portfolio. You've seen some great projects. And yes, we'll be a while before we see a resource, but the excitement is discovery and how that will kind of lead to share price growth. But we are, in our new form, a great explorer going forwards with a great team.
Okay. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. If I see any more questions come in, I will save them for future interviews with the Novo Resources team. Kas, Mike, thank you very much for your time. Everyone, you can keep sending me your questions to my email. That is fleck@kereport.com. I'm sure we'll be doing another webinar again to recap some of the results, and I'll also be bringing the team on my show for regular updates on the back of more news. So everyone, again, thank you very much for tuning in today.
Thanks, Corey.
Thanks, Corey.